right, we're doing it.
So we got to fight. And I threw him out of the house.
He said he shot himself, and I was in complete disbelief.
Find something that'll make you smile and laugh every day.
Seeing the mother and father holding the baby.
Enter as strangers.
All right, guys, well, welcome in.
Thanks.
Today, our guest is our middle brother, Jason. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, I gave this a lot of thought. I don't know. With us being, obviously all brothers and being, closely tied and a part of your story ultimately, didn't want to give too much of our perspective on it. Is that kind of what you decided?
Yeah.
Just let them dive right into it?
Yeah, I mean, basically. I mean, we could talk a little bit about, what we're going to be talking about, but, just let, people tell me I talk too much on the podcast, so I'm just going to really try to listen this time. But yeah, I think so. I mean, so we, how this kind of came about, I think in a roundabout way, everyone and their mom, at least to me, has been approaching me saying, hey, I should be on your podcast, or so-and-so should be on your podcast. Everybody has an opinion on who should be on a podcast and stuff. But we had, I think we were a few podcasts in, and Jason texted me and said, hey, if you ever want to have someone on, I think your exact words are, about how addiction fucks your life up.
Yeah, it's addiction and the chaos it can cause.
Yeah. So we said, yeah, we had, kind of a similar topic with our brother-in-law, Brody, and what he's been through, but a lot of that for him is behind him, and I know that there's a lot of stuff that you're currently dealing with, so right. I thought it'd be a cool perspective, or we thought it'd be a cool perspective to have. So I'm sure we'll jump all over the place, but why don't we start with Jay? Just tell us, I know that what kind of made you or gave you the idea to want to come on the podcast and talk a little bit about your situation?
I don't know. It's just to get it out there. I mean, I'm a real quiet dude. I don't like people knowing my business, but
yeah,
this it's ruined my life, so get it out there and
just talk
about therapeutic,
it.
To talk about it. I keep shit quiet for so long. It doesn't do no good.
Yeah,
to
sure.
Be able to, even if no one gives a shit, it's for me,
Yeah.
So.
Well, we talked about this on a podcast just with Eric and I a couple podcasts ago, I think, but studies that show that verbalizing,
right, just saying it,
saying stuff, and especially saying it when you have a pair of headphones on and it feeds back into your own brain,
right?
And how your voice sounds a little bit different than it does to you as opposed to when you're listening through a recording.
Right.
So it actually has an effect. So that's good. So I think that we, like everybody knows in the family to some degree, that you've struggled with addiction issues and stuff like that. And so why don't you kind of just tell us, at least start out and tell us a little bit about, from your perspective, your journey through addiction and kind of how you perceive it as far as when it started and kind of what you got into and where that's taken you to this point.
Long story. I mean, as far as, drugs and whatnot, it's been a better part of my life, but it's, the last 3.5, 4 years, it's just been hell. It's, I've used marijuana and, alcohol, whatever, since, 17, 18 years of age, which in my eyes was never a huge problem. It caused ripples here and there, but wasn't it didn't totally affect me as far as just changed me who I was. I mean, recently what the problem has been is opiates, and it's wrecked my world.
So like pain pills,
right,
and stuff,
right. And like I said, I mean, I've been messing around with shit my whole life. Not my whole life, but late teens and on. So, it was never a huge problem. Eating a lower tab of Percocet here and there. It was there. You ate it. It was gone. That was it. But lately, with this recent shit, it's every waking moment. It's all I was thinking about.
Right.
The amount of time and just money and
yeah.
Oh, it's sickening.
Well, it's no secret that opioids is a huge problem right now in society.
Oh, yeah.
So, I think having your perspective on it will be great could be helpful for other listeners and so on. So appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no problem. It's hard for me, but I got nothing to lose.
Yeah, and it's just, just say what you want to say what you don't want to say. I think that especially, with the podcast being a small little podcast that mainly gets listened to by family and friends, and, depending on who we have on will dictate who listens to it. But,
right.
I think that the nature of it being, primarily extended family and things like that listen to the podcast, there's probably a lot of interest and also a lot of potential benefit for people that, can listen to this and hear your story and get your perspective. Because like you say, I think we said on another podcast, it kind of speaks to your personality, but you're like the king of the Irish goodbye, whenever it's a family function or something like that.
Yeah, there is no goodbyes, man.
I know. But that can shed some light on, things, is that you're inherently a very private person, right. And you kind of keep to yourself, even at family functions and things like that. So having people be able to kind of hear your story, might, shed some light on the subject. Because one thing we always talk about in here is how you've got a person's story, you've got the story within the story, the things you don't know, and then you've got the story that you tell yourself about that person. Right. And a lot of times that's the most a skewed perspective of the right. person, is because you're just telling yourself a story because you're filling in the gap. So it sounds like, or we know, it's kind of a weird position to be in, because, as you're sitting on these mics here, you kind of want to take the role of asking questions at the right time, to get answers. Some of these things we already know the answers to, or assume the answers to. And so it's a little bit weird to ask you a question that I already know the answer to, but for people listening, right. I think it's important, and from what you've said and what we've known is that you've had a problem with opioids for a good while now.
Yeah, it's been 3 years,
3 years.
Yeah, bad.
Solid. And obviously something that you're still struggling with.
Right.
And what kind of, I know that there's been some recent, and we'll kind of go back and forth in the past and come back forward, but why don't you tell us what recently kind of took place that has been a major shift for you as far as this process that you're going through and this kind of demon you're struggling with?
I just got in trouble with the law, got sold some stolen shit, and
right.
They caught me with it, so you were looking at 2 second-degree felonies.
So you were selling stuff. You were stealing stuff to sell it.
I stole the stolen gun. Is what
you sold, a gun that was stolen.
Right.
Which got flagged, and then they traced it back to you.
Right.
And that's what kind of put you on, at least from what I understand, a path of trying to take care of business and get things handled.
Right. And it's what kicked everything into gear. I've been struggling with this for a while, and I've wanted help, but it's hard as hell to ask, what I mean, to admit it,
yeah.
Not that people didn't know. It's blatantly obvious something's different about the dude, but
well, it's often hard to submit shit to yourself.
Yeah, to come out and say it, like, dude, I need some fucking help,
Yeah.
It's just shame and guilt and everything else under the sun.
How much of your behavior with people that were close to you, friends, family, loved ones like that, how much of your behavior was dictated by guilt?
All of it.
Really?
Not all of it, but 90% of it.
Right. Because you're...
You for me, I hurt the people I love the most.
Yeah.
Which
is typical of addiction.
Right.
That's not unique to your situation, obviously. But when you got in trouble and you've got, pending court stuff and things like that, and I think that what's unique about having you on is that you're going through it right now. Right. And so do you find yourself looking for things, like coming on here and talking to us? Are you trying to like break the patterns?
Right. Just trying to get out of my normal routine of what I was doing, you know what I mean? As far as day-to-day shit,
Right.
Because it's hard. Some people can probably drop a habit like nothing, but if you ever get in a heavy opiate addiction, it's a nightmare, man. It's not easy.
Well, what's a typical daily mental? Take us through a typical day.
Now or prior?
Now.
Well, I wake up and just go to work and try to, live what I consider a healthy, normal life. It's don't go chasing it. Don't answer the text, and because you know who you need to and not need to talk to. You know what I mean? So it's. Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's that struggle like though? Is it really hard to refrain from?
At first, it was. It's getting easier. Being able to talk about it, and I've told a million people, this story over and over. So it's for me. That's easy. It's getting easier.
Mm-hmm.
It's. So my day to day is like going to work and shit hasn't changed, but it's just what I do with the in between time. It's I try to stay home and just tinker in my garage and just stay busy that way. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do shit around the house, and decorate the backyard, whatever. And just try to refrain from contacting those people, because they're not my friends. It's not like it's my buddy I went to school with or something, but
right. Mm-hmm. Do you have have you looked at kind of changing? Obviously, a lot of what you're doing is changing your patterns, right? You're not talking and interacting with the people that you should stay away from, or at least you're trying really hard to do that. But have you done anything else? Have you thought about changing the way you eat or the information
just getting routines down, it's
right.
We'll try to wake up at the same time, try to go to bed at
Mm-hmm.
Don't stay up,
right.
Try to eat better. I have a horrible habit of unhealthy eating, but
right.
Just simple things. Routine is one thing I've learned with addiction and through some classes. That's a huge thing for an addict first trying to get to recovery is just get routines, even as minute as it seems and looks. Just mm-hmm. wake at the same time, go to bed. Try to exercise. Don't have too much free time.
Right.
That's where you get yourself in trouble.
Keep yourself busy.
Right.
Yeah.
Busy in a good way.
Right. Yeah. And there could be busy in a bad way too.
Right.
So what do you think? Because what's interesting about the three of us sitting on this table, all being brothers, is that we all pretty much grew up in the same environment.
Right.
Obviously there's differences because we each went through certain formative years at a different time frame in a different area in a different house, all this stuff. But for the most part, the general overall stuff was the same. So do you feel like do you feel like your addiction or your proclivity for addiction has anything to do or had anything to do with I know that we talked about this a little bit, is when you were really, really young, I don't even know, you might know, you took a fall off a second-story deck and hit your head as toddler.
18 months?
Yeah, 18 months old. You fell.
Or mom threw me or something like that.
Off a second-story deck and hit your head on concrete.
Right.
And an outside deck and had to go to the hospital. Right. So, and you've had a couple other pretty major concussions since.
I've had a few.
8 now?
Yeah, I can't remember, but it's 7, 8, I think.
Right.
Pretty good ones.
Which we now know, TBI or traumatic brain injury can cause certain proclivities, especially when they happen really young. It makes people more, people that have, a traumatic brain injury when they're young tend to, as they get older and get into their 20s, become more risk averse. So they seek out risk more. And I don't really understand, the mechanics behind it. But do you feel like any of that has had any effect on you?
Oh, I'm sure it has. It's not like it's an excuse, but it's
right.
I don't see how it couldn't have.
Right.
It can't.
In your recovery or trying to recover and things like that, have you looked into, learning about that more so you can kind of understand what potentially is going on?
A little bit, not as much as I should.
Right.
It's a hard road for me, at least. People take recovery all different ways, but for me, it's just trying to start small. Stay honest, stay true. And like you're just asking the research on the traumatic brain injury. I probably should research it, but
right.
it's just not who I am as a person.
Right.
I just want to be better.
Right.
And maybe that would help to do shit like that. But
well, everything's got to come in phases, I would imagine. I mean, like any recovery process, whether it's a traditional 12-step or whatever, there's a lot of other shit that's got to be taken care of too.
Right. Oh yeah.
When you're dealing with that stuff. So tell us in your words, you say it's fucked your life up. Tell us how you feel it's fucked your life up in like the biggest ways. Obviously, facing,
court and legal troubles, that's one thing, but
right.
It's just changed who I am, how I think, how I process shit. That many years of throwing chemicals in your body, your brain, it makes you think different. It makes you process shit different.
Right.
It's not good.
Yeah.
It lost its fun long time ago. You know what I mean? It wasn't go get high to get high. It was try to feel okay. You know what I mean? It wasn't even about getting high. It's about being okay. Wanting to have the motivation to go to work.
Right.
To live life, And
that's the point that it got to,
right.
or it's gotten to, obviously.
Right. I mean, obviously at fun, most people use drugs because it's fun at first,
Right.
Go smoke a little on the weekend or whatever, but yeah, it hadn't been like that for a year and a half, 2 years. It's just
survival now.
Right. It's I don't know all the ins and outs and the studies behind it, but it's one of the worst drugs to fucking try to kick.
Oh, sure. Of course.
It's like I said, I've dibbled and dabbled in a little bit of everything in my life, and
right.
This is the shit I couldn't put down.
Yeah. Well, and it's different for everybody.
Right.
So you just said that it's not about having fun, it's the addiction of it now, but how much of the addictive behavior do you feel like was do you feel like it was you trying to like deal with some past trauma or something in your life at all that
it could be, and sitting with therapists and shit probably will come out down the road, but I don't think I was running from anything as far as
right.
A lot of people, I started using or I used because of this or because of that. I don't really have a thing I can pinpoint it on.
Well, at least not that you
not that I know
of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's what's interesting is like you're working through all this right now.
Right.
If we had you back on or had a discussion with you a year from now,
right,
those answers might be totally different.
There.
So, but yeah, I think it's a definitely a tough situation because I would imagine it makes you feel like you need to keep your distance and hide from people.
Oh yeah, that's me. I've always been quiet, but with the addiction and it makes you recluse like a motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. The people I've hurt and wronged or whatever, I don't know how to approach it. You know what I mean? That's a process that I'm just gonna have to work on as I go. I guess.
Right.
It's. Some people want the answer right now, the apology, and it's hard. And for one, sorry doesn't mean shit to me anymore because if I was sorry, I wouldn't have done it. You know what I mean?
Well, it's all a process too.
Right.
You have to learn. Nothing's gonna make I would imagine nothing makes a difference until you get some clarity from the addiction.
Right.
Anyway.
Get a piece of you back finally.
Right.
Yeah. Well, what I know it's probably really difficult, and Eric and I can sit here and asking you questions, but like is there any particular part of your process that you feel is important to share or that you really feel like you need to get out there? Because I want to make sure that we give you the opportunity to to say and talk about what you want to talk about, but
there's nothing in particular I want to get out there besides I feel for anybody going through it, because there's millions of them out there, with the addiction, and it's
right.
If you're there, try to get help, man. Try to, that's what sucks is because I got such a great family and the support behind me, but I don't accept it. I don't, like how I said, it was shame and guilt. You didn't want to ask for help, but
right.
my family, I could have asked any one of them, and they would have been there.
Yeah.
Or tried to.
Well, and that's like...
Not that they can do anything, you know.
Sure.
But support, sometimes that's all you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that's like the trick of it, right? It's like the question of, and everyone works differently, but just, you know, in having experience and having, you know, people close to me with addiction and stuff like that, you know, the why is it hard to ask for help? What about things makes it, you know, those are always the really hard questions. You know, I heard somebody say one time somewhere in something, I don't remember, but that, you know, that the addiction, the use is just a symptom, you know, of a bigger cause.
Right.
Something's causing that use, causing that stuff, and eventually it becomes a beast of its own, where it's probably apparent, or seems, the illusion is that it seems like to the addict that it is just the disease, it is the thing,
right?
It is the monster, but really, you know, there's usually always something behind that drove you to that point, and it just overtaken. So it seems like it's the whole thing.
Right.
Do you kind of feel that way?
Oh yeah.
Because we just speak real honestly. You know, I think that obviously growing up with you and stuff, that, you know, on some level, whether it's how you felt or it's how people perceived you, always kind of the black sheep in a way. You know, always kind of a little bit different, which there could be a million reasons behind that, and one of those could be all the severe concussions you had and whatnot, and just, you know, different, you developed, you know, or processed things a different way, and whatnot. But do you feel like, talk about since we're all family, talk about how you feel, maybe not right now, but like growing up or in your 20s, how you feel you know, fit into the family dynamic of things.
Like you said, I've always felt like the black sheep. You know, I was just always odd man out.
Right.
I don't know why I feel that way or why I did. I mean, I still do at times.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's not like I wasn't wanted or loved. It's just I just always felt like the third wheel.
Right.
I don't. That's where a lot of therapy's, you know, gonna help, is because there's got to be some shit down in there that, you know.
Right. Well, do you think that, like, how much of that? Because everybody does it, right? We take situations, we take scenarios, we take the wrong look, the wrong set of words, and we internalize it and make it about us, right? Or how that person is, you know, thinking about us, when in reality it may not be that way at all, but we internalize that and whatnot. So do you feel like just to have, you know, full accountability all across the board here, do you feel like there were things that made you to feel ostracized and kind of out on your own, or do you feel like that it was just something more internal that you were processing?
It was all internal. It was, there was nothing that was, like I said, no one outcasted me. I did that on my own.
Right.
You know, and why, I don't know. It's strange.
I mean, do you think that's part of, you know, the abuse over the years? I mean, not that you always felt that way, but once the addiction came, you know how thought processes change in your mind and so on and so forth, and that's kind of been the root, the self-talk, you know, through addiction.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
It's once you start telling yourself a certain story.
Oh, you just stick with it.
Yeah. And it's easier to add to that story and say, oh, well, you know, she doesn't like me, or they don't want me there anyway, or whatever it is, you know, just kind of continues to go. And I would imagine adds to that, you know, to that cycle and whatnot.
100%.
Yeah. So for you, like in going through this, because you've struggled for a long time. I mean, whether it's struggled, only you can answer this question. But you know, right now you're dealing with some legal stuff and whatnot, and you know, not that it's a huge deal because we don't have like a bazillion listeners, but even because you're dealing with legal stuff, even anything you say right now potentially can be, you know, can potentially be used against you, as generic as that sound, you know. But I've had people approach me, just FYI, I don't think I've told you this, but like, the legal system are now using things like podcasts and video and Facebook to incriminate people, on what they say if they've got ongoing cases or charges and things like that. But point being is that what has been like for you? You got in trouble years ago. I know you went to jail for a while.
I've been to jail here and there a few times.
Right. The first time it was for the longest duration, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, the longest I've ever done in jail is 30 days.
What was that like?
Dude,
at a county jail.
No fun. You know what it was like. It's great.
Well, I mean, I think people have a real interest in that, and also, it's very telling and whatnot. So, I mean,
yeah, that what was it? That was over. I can't remember. I think it was over some marijuana possession or
just
or something
charge. But weren't you in there for 30 days?
Yeah. Well, I don't follow rules very well, so it was. I was on probation and didn't, took a 12-month probation and turned it into 36 months.
Right.
Because I just didn't want to listen to what you had to tell me to do. Cause
what do you think that is?
I'm a stubborn prick, I guess. I just don't like being told what to do and when to do it.
Right. Yeah. I'm always like after the why, But if you don't, there may not be a why or
I don't think there is a why.
See, my thing is the reason that I'm always pushing that question is because you weren't born this way. You weren't born with the addiction. You weren't born, being or feeling like the black sheep, and you weren't,
No, it's all self-caused, man.
Right.
It's all self-created.
The conditioning and stuff. So
I don't wish I had a thing to point it at, but in a way I do. But no, it's all self-created.
Right.
All of it.
What has been the hardest thing for you in kind of going through this, and when you're trying to get back on track and like you said, stay busy in the right things? What's been the hardest thing for you?
Just staying sober.
Yeah. Just
it sounds so easy to some people, but
I don't think it's easy at all.
No, not easy at all.
And it's not just sober from opiates.
Yeah, is that everything? Is that alcohol?
Yeah, I can't fuck with any of it because
it's all trigger points.
At this point, it's a trigger. It's not like the gateway. Marijuana's a gateway drug, but it just don't.
Well, once
I get drunk or something, let's go get high.
Right.
I can't do it.
Yeah. How do you think that this whole thing has affected relationships that you have with people, friends, family?
Oh, no good.
Right.
Horrible, to say the least.
I'm going to keep drilling until you give me real answers. These little one-liners aren't going to cut it.
They're all one-liners.
I know.
I'm not going to,
dig in deep
on some tangent.
Yeah. I mean, Eric, what do you think? Do you have any questions about? I'm doing all the talking here, so again, someone's going to yell at me, so you talk too much.
No, I mean, it's fine. Keep talking.
That's what you do.
It's tough. It is tough because it's hard to, for me, I feel like there's always a why, and you may not know it yet, but there's got to be a why somewhere that things are what they are. And I hope you're able to dig it up and find it for sure, because I think that's key to recovery on a lot of different levels. But I'm just always more interested in, just the process of addiction and mentally, and just how that just, I don't even know how to articulate it well, because I can't relate. And so it's hard to put myself in your shoes and try and relate, and that's what we're here trying to get a perspective of.
Right. It's hell. It's a mind fuck.
But dude, how is it hell? Like, why is it hell? What's going on? I mean, addiction is hell, but
it's just the little things that come along with it, because it's one thing to be an addict and the people around you are addicts, you know what I mean? And they're using with you or something, but that's not my case. Everyone I'm around, I'm hiding my addiction, and it's just, you need to go get some drugs, so you got to come up with a reason why you got to leave, and then there's a lie, and then it just compounds itself.
And that just gets stored up in your guilt bank,
right?
And it just spills.
Right.
So how much of, like, at this stage or at recent stages, how much of your use is driven by, feeling bad?
too much of
So
it.
you're like, I can't deal with how guilty I feel, and so I
it's
want
an
to use
escape.
some more.
Yeah. It's just to numb yourself from it, you know?
And that's at the point you're at.
Right.
And have been for a year and a half, 2 years or so.
Right.
So like,
It's just all that guilt and shame I've created on myself. It just keep using to keep that emotion from coming up.
Right.
Even though you go and use it, just makes it.
it just
tenfold,
amplifies it.
man. It's
That's what's crazy to me, and
Yeah.
having people close to me with addiction is going, you know, I mean, because people that don't go through it don't understand it, and that's
Right.
you know, and it's not. That's why it's so hard with like family and friends, is if they don't understand it. But like, it goes both ways, you know, that people not understanding what you're going through is just as tough as you knowing what you're going through and not being able to, you know, make people understand. But the thing is like, from the outside, people going, well, if you could get a hold on it, then, you know, it's one thing to do something and then feel bad and then medicate that, right?
Right.
And then it's like you might come back up on top for a little bit and get back to base level, right? And then let's just take between two people. You've done something, let's just make it real simple, that's wronged a person you love, right?
Right.
And so if you're good and you're at a base level, then that issue can be dealt with or danced around and worked with and forgive and forget kind of thing. But what's hard for people that are close to addicts is that once a little bit of repair has been done and then the addict acts again and something else happens, it's now the new thing they've been wronged with or betrayed by or lied to,
Right.
plus the thing before, and that just compiles for the people close to addicts as well.
right.
And then it makes it harder and harder, and that's where real codependency comes into play, is because it's always adding. You're always adding to the stuff that hasn't been able to be dealt with yet, right? So for you, like, you know, because I don't really want to beat around the bush. I mean, for you, and I'm interested in your opinion of this, and you don't have to answer it if you don't want to answer it, but like, you know, ever since we were younger, you've had issues with like,
I'll take your shit.
yeah, stealing stuff.
Oh, there you go. Pretty straightforward.
Has that always been about feeding
yeah.
an addiction, or was that an
No.
addiction itself?
That's an addiction itself. It's just that's a
stealing
high
shit.
on its own.
Right. So that's an addiction as well.
I mean,
Right.
do you think that's where the guilt started then, which could have led to using at some point? Do you feel like that's even related?
It could be. Yeah, it probably is, but
Well, the thing
I
is,
don't know for sure. I started using because it was fucking fun.
Right.
You know, but yeah, it's
Well,
like,
like-
you know, in the head, I'm sure there is a connection there, you know.
we talked about this the other day. America threw out some crazy statistic where like 90-something% of your actions are unconsciously driven.
Right.
So like, you know, you might consciously have been using because it was fun, which it can be and is, but also there could have been some unconscious drivers that were driving you to use.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so, but like with stealing shit, right? That was a high end of itself. And that is a thing with TBI. That's being less risk averse, is that high and the adrenaline rush of, you know, whether it's stealing or whatever it is, but theft is one of those things that people that have had TBIs will do more of.
Right.
Right. So that's something that you're saying it was there before you even really had a problem using. And then by the time you started using, you just were really good at it. So you used it to feed your addiction, right?
Correct.
Do you think that, like, if you look at relationships you have with people that you are close to or were close to, do you think that the opioid addiction or the drug use was more damaging, or like the actual stealing from?
No, because
family?
it's not like they didn't care. Like I had an opiate addiction. I'm sure they care, but that wasn't the problem. The
Right.
problem was I took your shit.
Right.
You know.
Right. And you know, again, not to dance around it, everyone at this table has been victim to that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and on our part, just
Speaking of which, can I get my shit back?
Yeah. Come on out.
Get my shit back. You know, speaking just as honestly as possible about things, it's like at some point you're getting exactly what you want out of the relationships you have, meaning that, and again, this probably isn't a conscious thought, but it's just how I processed it. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, Jason wants to be on the outside because it makes his addiction easier. So by fucking you over and stealing something from you or whatever, it pushes you further and further away, and to the point where at some point we're just like, well, watch your shit. Because when Jason's around, you got to watch your shit, and it creates that distance, which I always felt was just like a distance that you wanted to create. Now, maybe not initially, but I mean, what do you think about? That's just my perspective, and this podcast is all about perspectives.
Right. No, I agree. It's push you away before you can push me away.
Right.
You know, I'll make the distance before you can. I get,
right.
Hurt you before you hurt me.
Exactly.
And that made it on your perspective, that felt like it made it easier to manage the relationship that way.
Oh yeah.
To be just.
Yeah, well, and it's been kind of shitty because, we're all brothers. And like you say, we didn't grow up in like a broken home or with, a lot of, we weren't, physically abused or anything like that. We pretty much all had the same kind of life, wasn't always the greatest, as far as like we weren't a wealthy family or anything like that.
There's nothing to bitch and complain about.
Right. I mean, had it way better than a lot of people.
Right.
And so it's like, having a brother who's way on the outside has always been super difficult, especially when like, to whatever degree, because we're all kind of the same way in that we're pretty, I wouldn't say keep to ourselves people, but like I'm not a big confrontation guy, and I don't think either of you are either.
Right.
And we come by that honestly and whatnot, and that's one of the things that it's one of my personality traits I like the least, is that I'm not good at confrontation. I'll avoid it at all costs, which doesn't make interacting with a brother who's got, is struggling or has issues or has, stolen something from me or whatever, work very well.
Right.
Because it's just like, well, shit, what do you do type of thing. But, the fact that we're all brothers and you have, distanced yourself, and then by distancing yourself, us giving excuses of why we keep a distance, it's all systemic and grows on itself, has really sucked. Because Eric and I are pretty close, because we're always hanging out doing things. Now you live out in Salt Lake, so you're further away from us, but even before you moved to Salt Lake, it was kind of like that. And so I'm kind of curious, is like in times whether we're out in the desert camping or we're at a family thing, and I'm not talking anytime recent, but even in the last 10 years, have you just felt like you haven't fit in or haven't belonged?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's been that way for a while.
Right.
I mean, as long as I can remember.
That is something that I don't think is, addiction related, that feeling. At least because it was there before.
It was there before, yeah.
Before any of that serious stuff.
That's what I mean. That feeling's childhood, young childhood.
Yeah. And like you say, only you're going to be able to maybe, hopefully someday, follow those kite strings back and figure out where that comes from or why it comes from there. That's the frustrating thing about being on the outside. And I don't know if Eric feels the same way, but because you know how families are. Everyone talks, says something, this says, and then it gets misconstrued or misinterpreted, and then it gets passed on. But to be when I say on the outside, what I mean is that on the outside of a closeness of a relationship with you is to hear something that you said or might have said something like it and it got mistranslated, and feeling like, I don't feel that way at all, or that's not how it is at all.
Right.
Why and where is this coming from? You know what I mean? And it gets to the point where the illusion becomes the reality, right? So if you feel a certain way, and I'm just speculating here, and this goes all three ways across the table. If you feel a certain way long enough, eventually the stuff you're feeling is going to manifest itself into
becomes reality.
So at some point when it's like, yeah, no, fuck Jason, we don't want him coming because he's so far gone that it's just going to be a difficult thing and everybody's got to worry about it type of thing, which wasn't always that way. And in a way, you created that with both your addiction and your, and I mean, do you feel that's accurate? And if so, is that something that you are, that you feel you're accountable for, or?
Oh, it's 100% accurate, and I'll take account for it 100%. It's strange because I create that space, but I don't like it, but
Do you think
I must because I keep doing it.
Do you think you're trying to protect in some weird fucked up way.
Yeah, but what am I protecting?
You're trying to protect people from you. Do you think you're trying to protect people from you by pushing them away?
I never thought it like that, but
I mean, that's what it always seemed. This is it's almost humorous, right? But because I love you to death, and I don't really have, I don't really have any ill will about you or want any bad thing to happen to you. Every time I hear something shitty that's happened to you, it fucking really sucks, right? But again, it's the conditioning of going, that's how Jason is, right. But it's not even an oh well thing. It really sucks. I mean, this last little stint you went through, there was a lot of conversation, with people in the family of what can we do, what should we do, and right in the middle of all that, you got busted. So it was like, okay, well, here's a major something that he's gonna have to deal with. So maybe this will be, a slap in the face, or it's a level of a rock bottom. So, but, I don't know. I kind of lost my point of where I was going with that. But, I don't know, Eric. What do you think?
It's hard. No, I totally agree. Like, as far as, it sucks being on the outside or feeling like on the outside. And I'm sure, it sucks for you feeling like you're on the outside in the black sheep, self-induced or not. Either way, it sucks. But I'm with Jeremy on that. Like, I love you to death. And, I'm always looking forward to desert trip and stuff, and I'm hoping you'll come. I'm hoping Jason will come. I'm hoping he'll come. But on the other side, I feel like you're going, fuck, they don't want me there anyway.
But I know it's all. I mean, I know you guys don't want ill will towards me. You know what I mean? I know you guys love me, but I have a hard time accepting it.
Right.
I don't. Not worthy of love.
Sure you are.
But you're not my therapist, so.
Well, probably if we all. There's obviously other people in your life, but if the three of us sat down and spoke as honestly as possible, it'd probably do just as much good or better than, 10 therapy sessions.
Oh, you're probably
You know what I mean? So, that's kind of the point of the podcast, I think, is Eric and I even talked about what should we talk about, what questions should we ask, because it's that non-confrontational thing. We don't want to necessarily make you feel uncomfortable or have you
there's really nothing you can ask that's going to make me any more uncomfortable than I feel already,
right? Well, that's because that's how I can only speak for myself. That's how I am too. It's like you hit a certain point in your life where you're like, I don't care, ask whatever, say whatever.
Right.
There's huge power in being able to go.
Power.
Oh yeah, no, I did. I fucked up. That's how
Owning
I am.
It out loud.
Yeah.
There's a lot of transformational power in that for sure, and personal power for you, and build off of it.
Well, and it takes power away from people that are coming at you negatively too. If you're just like, yep, you're right, immediately they're diffused. Like, well, no, I want you to disagree with me so I can argue my point over and over.
Well, and for your own self, in your own mind, it takes power away from that thought and that attachment to it and that ego you have to it. There's huge power in that to quiet that portion, that small mind, as much as possible, and allow your truth to just be there and come out. And accountability and all that. It's transformational for sure. So,
yeah.
Yeah, anything I've done wrong, I take full accountability for it. The other people may not see it that way, but I can't put weight to that because I can't concern myself with other people's thoughts and feelings, I'm not trying to deny shit or, what I mean?
Let's talk about that for a minute, because it's not that there's a difference between you're taking accountability for it, but you're taking accountability because you're internalizing the accountability.
In your own mind.
Right.
You're carrying the weight in your own mind. At some point, your words do carry weight. And at some point, and this is the thing with anybody or whether it's addicts or whatever, if the behavior continues, then anything that is said is irrelevant in the past. And I'm sure that's how you feel. Like you said, sorry don't mean nothing, because if you're sorry, you wouldn't do it, which is oversimplification of how complex it really is, but I think that you'll get to a point where you'll find that, when you've got yourself back to baseline, your words will carry weight with people that you may not feel like respect you anymore and stuff like that. And it's not this, honestly, just sitting across the table from you, this is honestly the longest time I've spent with you in a conversation, and I can't even remember how long.
Years.
Long. Past a decade probably.
Yeah.
And I can tell you're super uncomfortable, and I can tell this is super hard for you, and you're dealing with this right now. It's not like you've got your addiction licked and now you're looking to make amends and stuff. So I think it's important that that at least I recognize that it's not a time. All them people out there who you fucked over and you've stolen shit from and relationships you've burned because of your addiction need to understand that now is not the time for them to look for some sort of answers from you.
Yeah.
You've got to get through it.
Right.
You've got to get through the addiction first, and then you've got to start with the closest relationships and work on those, and then work your way out. That's the thing is, everybody I know that you've fucked over some way or shape or form isn't beyond reproach of mending that relationship.
No, not in the slightest.
And I think you probably realize that too.
Well, I know that, yeah, but it's still, I mean, it's hard. It's
It's because it's owning it.
Right.
It's admitting it, and it's owning it. And that shit is hard for people to do. And really, that's what it comes down to for me, is that full accountability of it, for sure, is tough. Tough.
When you have people that love and care about you, what repairs a lot of damage is to see that person who's caused that damage doing well.
Well, yeah.
That's the biggest thing that you can do. I mean, dude, just say it if you think that, what we're saying is total horseshit.
No, not at all, dude. You're down, spot on.
Because
I don't disagree with any of it.
Yeah. And I mean,
but putting it into action for me sometimes it's difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a process. It's not a cut and dry, fucking shit's good and let's move on.
No, there's, of course not. And I don't think most people
I encourage you to find, and I'm sure you are, obviously you are, through therapy or whatever, find that outlet, writing a letter and apologizing in a letter, even though you're not giving it to them for your own psyche and so on, find a good method that helps you manage those, I think would be really, really useful.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. And this is just my opinion, and it's a little soapboxy, and I don't exclude myself from this at all. This goes for everyone, right? Is especially when you're dealing with something like you're going through, right? Where no part of what you're going through or the place you've got yourself in is a good situation, right? Because it's covered with the webs and the webs and vines of everything that goes with it. So even though there might be some light shining through over here, oh, this is good or that's good, really none of it's good because it's all been grown around, the addiction that you have. But like mastering different things, really changing everything about you. I don't know if it's this way for you. And like I said, this is going to sound a little soapboxy and stuff, but having someone in my life that I'm close to that has issues with addiction and seeing the pitfalls coming a mile away and having that person not see them coming, that meaning that when things are good or quote unquote good or better, and seeing, here comes some triggers, here comes some pitfalls, and not being allowed or permitted to say, be careful because you're kind of doing that same thing you do right before you go off the rails. Because everything that loved ones say to us is weighted, right? It's hard for you to maybe hear, Jordy say something to you because it's just weighted with all kinds of other things. But I don't know. Sometimes we've got to try to change everything about what we do. Everything.
With an addiction like it is, you have to start from scratch. It's
how much. I mean, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I'm just wondering how much for you is, as you're going through this. I got to imagine, because you're right in the middle of it. You probably don't want to hear shit from anyone.
I don't mind hearing people got to say. it helps me. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel good at all, at times, but that's help. That's what I need.
But going back to how you don't like to be told what to do,
right?
That I know someone.
But you're not telling me what to do.
Thing.
You're just telling me.
All
what
right,
you
but
think.
if someone's saying to you, "Dude, you need to do this. You need to do that. You need to do this." How do you take that? Like, what's your response to that? It's one thing if it's like a therapist or a drug counselor or something like that who you don't know, right? But I guarantee you that part of your brain, because we all do it, someone says, you should do this, and you're in your head, you're going, fuck you.
Yeah, who the fuck
right.
you?
Yeah,
Because
right.
look what you do, and you do this, and you do that.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Do you experience that?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's good. That's good to know. That's good to know. So for you, like the isolation of how you isolate yourself from everything has always been part of keeping the cycle going with the addiction.
Yes.
Because you create the distance, gives you more reason, makes it easier.
It gives you an excuse.
Right.
You know.
It gives you an excuse. Nobody cares.
Yeah, I don't think nobody cares. I don't let them care.
Just by
not being there.
Just by kind of tweaking the relationship to where it doesn't. You just don't let them care.
Well, to say I don't let them care.
Right.
I can't control that, but
Right.
it's
You don't want to accept the care.
exactly. I don't want to carry that.
Well, let's put it a different way. How much of your behavior is like this? You do something, and then that person you're in a relationship with or you have a relationship with goes, fuck it. That guy is a loser, or that guy, you just can't trust him. And then in your head, you're going, yep, I knew they thought that way. Right?
At times, yeah.
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 I mean, we tend to do that where we just beat on something until, because that's the thing. There is no life without relationships and other people.
Right.
And interacting, even if it's someone you are acquaintance with, a coworker with. You know what I mean? If you want them to see you a certain way, you'll beat on it till they see you a certain way. And especially if you're geared towards negativity or having negative thoughts about yourself, you will create situations to which those negative thoughts about yourself get mirrored by, or you try to get them mirrored by people around you, because it in a way makes you feel better and go, I knew I was right. I knew that people felt this way about me. I mean, I don't know.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Concur.
Well, so how has it been going? Like struggling through this now?
It's going good. I mean, it's better, not good. It's better.
It's better. I mean, there's progress.
There's progress.
You feel there's progress.
Yeah.
So are you currently enrolled in a program of some sort then?
Just an IOP thing, but I start on this Wednesday, the drug court.
Oh, nice.
Which I know nothing about, but
well, call her sister. She can tell you.
yeah.
She's plenty versed in that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I start that this coming Wednesday.
So I'm curious. I mean,
and as far as court, that's all still up in the air. I don't even.
That's
pay the lawyer.
That's part of the worst part right there. It's just the unknown of it all.
It's weird
still.
how they can drag it out for so damn long.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't been that long, but in my head, it's been forever.
Yeah, it's felt like an eternity, I'm sure.
Right.
So I'm just kind of curious, and jumping way back and not off topic, but I mean, in the thick of it, when you can go back to when your addiction was the absolute worst, you can remember it. What was that day like? How does that day go mentally, physically? How many pills do you need at certain points? I mean, every hour, 2 hours. I mean,
as many as you got.
Really?
Yeah. If I told you the amount of money I spent in the last 3 years, you'd shit your pants. It's.
Do you even know?
Not 100%, but I mean, figure $300 a week for 3 years. What's that calculate to?
A lot of money.
Yeah. I can't Saturday.
40
I can't
grand
do math.
or more.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
But a lot of that's coming from stuff that you're selling. Right?
Yeah and no.
I mean, depending, I guess.
90% of it's out of my own pocket. You know what I mean?
Which
Yeah.
only affects the rest of the household.
That's a low end figure. You know what I mean? It's fucked up. It's bad out there.
Have you thought about, is there any like life circumstances besides what you do that you feel need to change in order to try to keep yourself sober?
life circumstances.
Yeah, like the idea that, is the area you live in not good?
No, it's, a lot of people say, well, move back up here, move back up north. It don't matter where you are. You're still with yourself. I can move to Cambodia. I'm still,
right.
It's not where, for me, it's not where I'm located.
Wherever you go, there you are.
Right.
So you realize this is an issue that is internalized within yourself.
Right.
That these are issues that you've got to deal with. So right now, what's your primary focus right now?
Stay out of jail.
Stay out of jail.
I mean, to stay sober and just, hopefully I don't have to go serve time.
Yeah.
I mean, if I do, I do, but
your primary focus is just to stay.
Just stay sober, stay busy,
Yeah. When you're, what triggers you? Like what?
Oh, it's anything can trigger me, man. It's
because like
the dude driving next to me on the freeway. It's when you're in the heat of it. I mean, maybe not right now, but when it was, everything's a trigger.
Well, I mean, maybe I might have worded that wrong way. So like what makes you just Jones the most? Could it be anything like those triggers you're saying? You get pissed off or
if
whatever?
you're drinking, you get drunk and buzzed. And I mean, is there anything that goes, God?
Yeah, there's not like something that makes me think about it or want it more than the other. It all does.
It just all does.
It's all does.
It's just constant.
It's just all day.
Yeah. I mean, not right now it's not, but back, 2 months ago, when I was first going into it, it was...
Right.
It was horrible.
So, so you're not using it at all?
It's been 31 days.
31 days.
Right.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, that's awesome.
With no opiates. I sucked up and smoked some weed last night, but...
Right. Well, because you seem, your body language, everything about you seems like it's a struggle. You seem real fidgety and tense, and I'm sure that, talking in a microphone and being recorded isn't helping anything.
Right.
But like, I mean, it's just minute to minute, right?
Right. It's, day by day, minute by minute.
Do you sleep good?
Lately I have been, yeah.
Yeah.
2-3 weeks ago it wasn't, but that was some other situations in life with the boy and whatnot. But
dude, because I hadn't seen you except maybe like in passing on a car, leaving mom's house or something like that. But what was that, Mother's Day?
Mm-hmm.
When you came over or something like that. I hadn't seen you in a
I
while.
think it was Mother's Day.
Dude, and your freaking weight, skinny as
I lost all kinds of weight. Yeah.
Looked totally different.
I like the weight I'm at, but it was an unhealthy way to get there.
Yeah. Not a good weight. Are you
not a diet plan, people? Sorry.
No. Are you exercising?
I try, not like, I don't have a set regimen, but I should.
Right.
But I try to do the walks and whatnot, but
right.
My job's physical enough. I think that I don't need a workout plan.
It's going to sound super...
I honestly should.
Super corny. You should do yoga, dude. You should do yoga on YouTube.
IOP up in South Weber, we were doing, we called it Breathworks, but it was
start there, yeah.
basically
huge,
yoga.
Dude.
Yep.
But
huge benefits.
Yeah. Big benefits. I got a question. In your current state, going through the process right now and stuff, if I made you pin it down to one thing, what right now is your biggest motivation? Where do you find the easiest motivation and the most motivation to stay sober, to work out, to do whatever?
My wife.
Good. Your what?
Wife.
Oh, wife. I thought you said life.
My life.
I'm like,
no, my wife.
Okay, so your
wife. I mean, is that just a constant focus for you? You keep that in the back of your mind.
Right.
Jordy.
Wife and children.
And the family.
Right.
So
immediate family.
Mm-hmm.
There's another situation that you've had to deal with for quite a while that's a little bit outside your control, but I'm sure knowing you've put a lot of accountability on yourself for it. But you were in a long-term relationship years ago and helped raise a little boy, and that little boy has turned into a young teenager, mid-teenager. How old is he now? 15? 16. And he's kind of gone off the rails and has had a lot of struggles in life.
Yep.
And I know that you've kind of more or less been a dad to him since he was real little, but he's always...
I am his dad.
Yeah.
Right.
3 months old.
Right, 3 months old. But he's always had, I don't know the right term, but
issue.
He's always had issues and struggle with things and stuff like that. How much of his, because we know, and you can talk about it if you want. It's actually would make for an amazing story. You know, of course, it's his story and your story and his mom's story, and you know, he's basically our nephew. We know him as that, and even more so, he's been to the desert with us a couple times, so that takes it to a whole new level as far as I'm concerned. But how much of his struggling teen, getting in all kinds of trouble, he's been helped out and gone to different, you know, youth groups and camps and things like that to try to help get him the guidance that he needs. How much of that has added to the difficulty of one, has it contributed to your addiction? And two, has it made it hard because of what he's going through now? Has it made it hard to stay sober?
It's helped me feed my addiction. It's by no means the cause of it, but it's helped me
because it's
feed it
because the emotions, right? Because you're trying to not feel.
Mm-hmm. All right. I carry way too much weight in that situation. He's where he's at because of me.
You think,
right?
But do you know that
you're a product of your environment?
Well, but just like with you, and potentially the thing that the fall you took as a little kid, 18 months old, I can guarantee you has 100% has some sort of an effect on how you are today. There's no question. Right. There are parts of your brains. I mean, you watch enough Dr. Phil's and they'll take people on into the most high-tech MRI imaging place in California with people with behavioral issues, and they will pinpoint behavioral issues based on damage to the brain. It's directly related. I mean, even down to serial killers.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Are linked to parts of the brain that didn't develop correctly.
Yeah, empathy and so on.
Right.
I think the point he was leading to is with Tyson. It seems like he's kind of always had maybe that issue or something there that has nothing to do with you. So you can't take the weight of all that either.
I can't, but I guess the addiction.
You think he is where he's at because of you?
Not 100%, but I mean a lot of it, yeah.
But see, even when he was really young and there was some behavioral things before he was aware of your behavioral things.
Right.
See, that's the disconnect, right? You're right. We are products of our environment. It's nurture versus nature, but nature plays a role in it too, meaning the way we're born, the wiring that we have, we're predispositioned, most true. I'm not correlating you or Tyson with this at all, but it's just the extreme example. Most true serial killers, right? Or people that are psychopaths, they're wired wrong. It's a mechanical issue. So, and then there's obviously there's a whole scale of that, right?
Right.
And we all have deficiencies somewhere or some form, right? So, I mean, you have to go through it the way you have to go through it, but I've heard that before, and I don't think personally that you have anything to do with where he's at to a degree, because it seems like you've always been there for him. You've tried to help when you can help, and been a really good dad for him when he didn't have a dad to help take care of him.
Right.
And I think that there's a lot fewer people that think that way as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think this is your stone to carry.
It's probably not.
You're going to carry it because you're his dad.
Yeah, of course, to some degree.
It's not your fault. I mean,
it's not my fault, but I
mean, you could argue that you didn't help, that you're being. I don't know.
It's tough.
It's all this gray area.
It
right?
is a gray area.
It's this gray area because your addiction and your problems are definitely have an effect on your children. There's no question about it. But also, at some point, he's a young man and has to take accountability for
his choices, his actions.
This is what I always tell my kids, because all parents fuck their kids up, period. In one way or another, we pass on things to our children. I tell my kids all the time, because someone told it to me once, I say, your job is to be a better parent than I was, is to be better than I am. That's your job, is to be better than I am. And at some point, kids are accountable for that, and we do the best we can. But, I guess the point I'm getting at is that I have a feeling that you think that there might be outside people who think you're the reason Tyson's getting into the things he is?
Not really, no.
Okay, good.
I that's just my own.
You're just holding on.
I don't know
all
why.
by yourself.
Yeah. It's all.
Well, because you're a good person.
Yeah, it is in there. That's what the brother guilt comes from, because your soul, your heart knows the truth. It knows better, and it's in there for sure, and it wants to come busting on through.
Oh yeah, it does.
That's the bullshit part about all this, dude. Like, just being real is like, you're not an asshole. You're an asshole.
No.
I'm the nicest asshole you'll meet.
He is the nicest asshole.
Definitely
but
the
like,
cleanest.
if you ever need something, if someone ever needs something, you'll help out. You've helped me out plenty of times. I know you've helped Eric out plenty of times, and that goes vice versa. But like, that's the thing with people that we care about, right? Like, you're a good person. You just are struggling.
I am a good person. It's just,
but you're also an asshole.
Oh yeah. I'm more asshole than good.
Well, I don't think so. I think
me either.
I think that if it's on a timeline, you might be more in an asshole swing of the pendulum right now.
Right.
But the good is just as prevalent, if not more. You're just not swinging to that side. But here's what's funny about Jason. In full disclosure, or it's not funny, but I find humor in it. Is Jason always seems to be I've been in situations before where Jason seems to be the troublemaker, and this is what I always kind of associated this with. If you were feeling shitty about stuff, there's a part of you, and maybe whether you're willing to admit it or not, it always seemed like there's a part of you that wanted to create chaos in the people around you too, because then it would mirror or take away, or it would kind of,
you could blend in more.
You could blend in more with it. I mean, what do you think of that?
Yeah,
you're a shit starter, or you were
antagonizer.
You used to be a shit starter.
Oh yeah, it's for lack of a better term, I get a high off of it.
But it's a destructive high.
Right. Oh yeah, 100%.
Right.
Yeah, I'll stir the pot just to create chaos.
Because you get a high off of it.
Right.
See, that's what's interesting.
Well, I mean, in my brain, I base it down not to, maybe control is not the right word, but it is a sense of control. That you can control this situation because your space and your mind, you feel like you have no control over. So it's this balancing act.
Right. Oh yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you say you get a high off of it, right? Because, like, I know with other people I know that have addiction issues, deep down, they're so chaotic and so have the wrong perception of themselves that their behavior is driving a need to make the outside world resemble how they feel inside. Do you feel that's the way with you?
Yeah.
That's it? It's like deep down, you've got to create the chaos out here that you feel inside. Because on a fucked up, sick level, that's what makes you feel better.
Comfortable.
It's comfortability.
It makes you feel comfortable.
You have to have chaos out here to make it in your head okay. You know what I mean?
Well, it's like this.
Do you feel like that chaos outside of it somehow you justify using because of it?
Right.
In a way?
Yes.
Well, let's make it like real simple terms, like relationships, right? If you're having major relationship issues, like boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, and you're hanging out with people who are really good, they're like the happiest couple, right? Or they seem to be. It sucks being around like when you're having all this. Yeah. So it's kind of the same thing. And then in a way, the complexity of it, and this is just all assumption on my part. I always thought this. Well, I think that's what's going on with Jay. And then the reason he isolates himself is because the other half of him knows that I care about these people. I don't want to create this chaos. And so I'm going to isolate from it. Yay, nay?
Yeah. I
Maybe
should
a little
pay
bit.
you to be my therapist or something. No, I agree.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, I don't know. It's easy to observe from the outside.
Right.
I mean,
always outside looking in.
The hard part is turning it inward and going, okay, this is how I am. This is what I do. Why do I do this?
Right.
I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. Trying things is really the hardest part. You know,
it's scary.
Right,
it's unknown.
New. Yeah.
It's unknown. It's way out of your comfort zone. But I think there's, even if it is coming around more and hanging out more, those small steps to where you can alter as many behaviors of your old behaviors, alter them in just the slightest step to start with. Little tweaks to start with. And the more things you can do that with, I think the, more beneficial for sure it'll be.
We used to call it, we came up with a term a long time ago called pushing zones. So if you think of your comfort zone and you push your zones and you put yourself in situations that make you uncomfortable, right? It creates massive amounts of growth neurologically, right? Because you're forming new neural pathways. You're causing the brain to be rewired in some way, shape, or form. Like there's extreme. I only know about this stuff because I listen to an immense amount of podcasts, but also because of having people in my life that struggle from addiction. Have you ever looked into the way alternative things like the things that they don't offer here in the States like they do in Mexico or South America, like ayahuasca or iboga, or these things that have one-time use and they change heroin addicts' lives? Right.
I mean, I've heard about it, but I haven't really dove into it.
It just really sucks that that's not something that people here have access to.
Yeah. It's total crap, really, is what it is.
It's total crap. Speaking of which, I know somebody who has gotten, and I've gotten different numbers on this, so if anyone out there knows for sure and I say it wrong, I apologize, but there's a shot that you can take if you're a severe alcoholic, and it basically takes away the craving for alcohol.
Well, they have the same thing for opiate.
Right. Yeah. It costs $1,500
the price
a
of it's
shot.
Insane.
Now, this person's lucky enough to be working with a facility that has a grant, and she was lucky to get it for free, basically, or to be put in the program for free. But what the fuck is that? That shot don't cost $1,500.
No, it's all
that chemical.
It's all bullshit because the drug companies want you addicted.
It is bullshit. I mean, my addiction's my own problem, but why is heroin a problem? Why are the opiates a problem? It's the fucking government, man. It's
the government.
We don't need to get conspiracy and shit.
The reality is there's things out there that can help you immediately.
Right.
With the chemical addiction that you have, but you don't have access to them.
Right.
Now, those things are just temporary fixes, like the opiate is.
Right.
But if they can give you that stable ground to stand on.
Right.
I mean,
but it costs $20,000.
Yeah.
It's total bullshit.
It is. It is, especially with the epidemic opiates is right now. It's like the EpiPen, how expensive that was, and it's life saving.
Save your life, but you got to have $50,000.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be loaded to get it. It's just total crap to me that there's an option out there for people, and it's not more available to them.
Well, that's like treatment. Any addiction treatment. I mean, if you ever look into the prices of those things, it's insane.
It is.
I mean, granted, most addicts spend more than that on their addiction, but you'd think it's somehow, some way they'd want to make it cheaper or could or.
Well, I mean, and there's all kinds.
all the professions in it and stuff.
Conspiracy theories around why it's not and stuff like that, but it is ridiculous.
It's just sad. It's really sad.
It is. It's sad. I mean.
So let me ask you this, because this was just an assumption. Again, it's a story that we tell ourselves, but like I know when. Right before you got in trouble, everyone talks and things were going missing and stuff like that, and it appeared that you were feeding a pretty severe habit, and assumptions were made that maybe you were now feeding just a more direct heroin habit.
No, I never turned to heroin
because it's in a lot of ways easier and cheaper.
It's way cheaper, and from what I hear, it's a better high.
Well, especially here in Utah, it's way easier to get. Yeah. So fear.
What makes you scared of it?
One of my, not my best friend anymore, but good buddy, completely ruined his life. Basically heroin and opiate, it's
the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Well,
but pills in my retarded head, it's clean. You go buy heroin off the street, you don't know what you're getting.
Right.
But with pills, it's the same way, because I bought fake pills and about died. So.
But the reality is, when you use your friend as an example, maybe his situation's worse off than where you're at, but that's an illusion you're telling yourself,
right?
Because it doesn't matter.
It just scared me. I'd never.
Yeah.
But
you wouldn't be necessarily any worse or better off on one thing or another when you take the addiction to this degree, right? Because aside from the physical damage it's doing to your body, like the physical predicament you're putting yourself in. The real damage of life is what's going on around you that has nothing to do with the physical aspect of it. Right? If you lived on an island with a opiate bush and no one else was around, and you were addicted, you'd take that shit until you died.
Right.
And that would be it. Right? It's and not good, but it'd be awful, but more simplistic than when you surround yourself with people, family and friends, and they're all dragged into that,
it becomes a mosh posh or a spaghetti bowl of shit. Because if you're by yourself, you're not accountable. You don't have to be accountable. You don't have to feel guilty. You don't have to do any of that, but you do have life forces that on you.
I don't like having regrets, but my addiction sucks and I wish I never had it, but it's what it's caused on the people around me that has affected me the most.
You can tell, for sure.
The chaos, it's just...
For sure.
It hurts for myself, but
we're all okay.
Other people.
We're all okay. The things around you are okay, for real. Don't worry about that right now, because we're all good and we're all here to support. What would be the best for us is to see a healthy, clean Jason.
Oh yeah, it'd be best for me. I love you guys, but I care less what you think at this point. You know what I mean? It's not that I don't care, but it's...
You tell yourself you don't care.
Right. You're hiding from it. Yeah, you're hiding from it.
It's easier that way.
For sure. You do care. We know you care.
We know better, dude.
Yeah.
This is the thing, right? It's so frustrating. The emotions that you're trying to avoid when you're feeding an addiction, whatever that addiction is, and we all do this in some way, but the emotions you're trying to avoid are easier to deal with than the chaos that avoiding them creates. The situation you put yourself in is so much harder than just facing the emotion, facing the stuff you're trying to suppress.
The emotions are what's going to help. Those emotions,
exactly.
I think, are exactly what's going to get you through it.
They're the guidance system. They're the thing telling you, go this way, go that way. And when it's like I tell, I don't know, someone I'm close to, I tell all the time, it's like, what you're going through right now is way harder than if you just turn around and face what you're running from. If you face what you're running from, it's going to be so much easier than this
I agree,
months and years of the same shit over
said
and over.
Than done.
I understand. Of course it is. Of course it is. But it's an illusion.
Right. Well,
it's a trick of the mind.
Our minds are fucked up. Awesome thing, but it's, how it can screw you that way. If we think you're right, turn around and face it. It'd be a whole hell of a lot easier.
But you're only going to know that once you go through it, and you go, shit. That's all it took.
That's all it took. Yeah.
I should have done this years ago.
Yeah, what was I waiting?
Damn it!
Because it is. It's not. Nothing's as easy as that. And And I'm not talking just about addiction. It could be anything in your life, any little thing that you're running from, that's causing you stress or heartache or whatever it is. If you just turn and face it, but it's never that easy. This is the other thing, right? The amount of mental capacity and exercise it takes to be, let's use the example in your case, to be an addict, right? The lying, the manipulating, the stealing, the whatever it takes, the mental stress and engineering you have to do in your head to keep all the balls in the air. Imagine all that mental power being just switched over into something different, and all of a sudden, you're running, you're managing 4 Del Tacos.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. I don't know. But we all do that. The amount of mental energy we waste. And for you, I can imagine that the addiction is so overwhelming that the job and the marriage and stuff, it's just these things that are just kind of hanging on, right? They're just kind of hanging on.
Barely.
So this is not my advice, but this is something Tony Robbins said once in a thing I watched. And I try to apply it for myself. So maybe this be helpful to you. Anything in your life, whatever it is that you're having issue with, and obviously that's more than one thing, but just pick one, okay? And you feel like whether it's a person or a situation, and you're not getting out of it what you want, and it's causing you heartache or stress. So like a relationship, right? So for 30 to 60 days, 100% commit to that thing, that relationship, that situation. Give it everything that you have for just 30 to 60 days and watch what happens with it, right? 9 times out of 10, that situation will totally change, because so much of what we're getting back from the world around us is obviously directly proportional to what we're putting into it. Right. But we just tell ourselves, oh, this person doesn't want to do that, this doesn't want to do that. But if you just go out of your way to be the extreme version of what you want from that relationship, it's pretty amazing what will happen after the fact.
I doubt it'd even take that long in a severe situation.
No.
It'd probably take a week.
Yeah,
You do it for a
few
week.
days,
You know, pick one, like you said, pick one thing and put everything you got on that one thing. You look back on that week and go, whoa, you know?
I think on a little bit of a subject change, I think that people that probably listen to this podcast that know you.
You don't know me.
You don't know, Jay. Or people who are aware of your name and where you're from. No. People who know you probably will listen to this and not really have gotten the insight that they wanted to necessarily.
No, they won't. They won't for sure.
Because you're not there yet.
No, I was just sitting here thinking the same thing, going, you know, I'm sure people listening are going to be almost kind of upset because they wanted more of the story. But and if you're not there, you're not there for more of the story. But I think that's what they're interested in. And so sorry, but
I don't think
deal with it.
Jay's not necessarily trying to not tell the story. I just don't think you have the story, under control yet or formulated yet.
Well, as we always say, hindsight's 20/20, and his hindsight isn't far enough out to have that reflection on the story and really chronologically put it together.
Here's the challenge. Here's the challenge, because he said it twice today.
I know.
Where he said what?
Go ahead.
What?
Go ahead.
You say the same thing. Where you said you don't really or can't give a fuck what people think, right? You've said it twice today. Okay.
When that's all that you're doing.
Here's the challenge. So one of the plans for our podcast is, as it grows and as we get time behind us, is we want to have certain individuals come back in, whether it's 6 months down the road, a year down the road, or whatever, because we think that one of the interesting things to document is to show how much people's perspectives can change over a short period of time, right? Or through certain life situations. So the challenge is, or the thing to remember is when Jason comes back, is, if he ever comes back.
Oh, he's coming back.
Is to see how much that attitude has changed for you. Because I don't think personally you're at a place where you can do that right now. I don't think you can afford to give a shit. Now, here's the crappy part about that. You couldn't afford to give a shit being fucked up either, right? And it's just a thing that crosses both lines. In your addiction, you can't afford to give a shit. And as you're trying to deal with coming through an addiction, you can't afford it right now either. But you just can't afford the energy right now, because it's apparent that there's a lot of
weight
and noise in your head.
A lot of weight.
Yeah, there's a lot of...
You got to shed. I think you got to try and shed as much of that as you can. Even the small things with Tyson maybe, or something like that. Try and set down some of those stones. I feel like you are carrying a ton of weight on your shoulders that's unnecessary.
Oh yeah, I feel I am, but yeah, how to put it down. That's the trick for me.
For sure. And hopefully, some of your sessions and stuff will help with tools and tricks and tasks, and get motivated yourself to research some of those things or something. Whether it's through reading maybe or something, I don't know, but
yeah, the
more you can motivate yourself, I think the better. Of course,
this goes for everyone. Here's the thing: the more information we take in that's positive in nature, the more a literal effect it has on our brain. Okay, so I'll give a small example. I've talked to you about it before. There's a website out there called goalcast.com. And it's just a hodgepodge of inspirational things written by, successful people. There's videos, there's a really great talk Jim Carrey gave on there. So it's all across the board, everything. And instantly people have a resistance to that. Anything motivational or positive, they're like, blah, blah, blah. It's a bunch of bullshit. But every day, if you get on there and you watch one little 4-minute video like that, it's like that poem you showed me from that guy, right?
Yep.
Those things, they seep into the brain and they have an effect. If you put more in that's positive in nature, even if you don't agree with it,
right,
fundamentally, than you do what's negative, you start to change how you look at the world. You start to change how you feel. That's why
eventually you will agree with it. It'll change that.
Right, or you'll formulate, an opinion adjacent to it or whatever. But that, I think, is like a huge key in what you're dealing with, is don't resist learning new things. Because if you can start, whatever it is, even if it was woodworking, right? If you're learning something new, you're putting your brain into a state of pliability because your neural pathways are forming, and it leaves more opportunity for you to break the older connections. That's why I always am a big fan of learning, listening. So that's where podcasts are great, because you can learn so much in a short period of time in a podcast by listening to a podcast with this, neuroscientist or this astrophysicist. You know what I mean? I was listening to the Neil deGrasse Tyson
that's a good
podcast on Joe Rogan today, and I'm like, what? I didn't know that. What? I didn't know that. And those things just, they just fire up the brain, basically.
It's new conditioning. You're reconditioning your brain again.
So what we like to do in every podcast, because we've hit about the normal time that we do, is a couple things. Well, first of all, we always ask our guests, what's something that you would like to leave the listeners with, if anything, about your situation, or any advice you would give to someone who might be in a similar situation to you, or having someone close to them who's in that situation. Is there something that you'd want to say, or any advice that you would give?
Yeah, I mean, if you're the person that is with the addiction, it sucks, but find the help. It sucks going through it, so find the help. I mean, ask people, don't be afraid to. And if you know someone that's going through it, same thing, just confront them on it. You may not get what you want, but
right,
let them know you're there.
Awesome. Eric?
Very good.
In respects to individuals who say we end our podcast too abruptly, do you have any final parting words?
No, I mean, just admiration. I appreciate you coming on. It's like Jeremy said, this is the longest we've sat down and had a conversation with you in decades, maybe. Mm-hmm. And so it's been helpful and insightful, and I appreciate you coming on and being willing to do it and step outside of your comfort zone. This is one of those comfort zone pushes we talked about. Keep doing those for sure. I think it'll be a good thing. And I know for Jason, the Jason I know, that's a huge step for you being in this chair right now.
When you text me and said you'd come on, I was like, who is this?
Blown away.
I was like, who's this?
For sure.
What have you done with my brother?
Where'd he go? So, I commend you for it.
Thanks for letting me.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, and I just want to interject one last thing here that I think is important, which is that, I think this goes all the way around this table. I tell my friends this, and I don't have a ton of friends, right, that aren't older friends that I'm just connected with through time and everything's. I tell you, I'm a crappy friend, because I'm not the guy that's going to pick up the phone and just call you to chit chat. Yeah, and I've had people close to me take offense to that, but it's just not how I'm wired. I am more than willing to answer the phone. I'm more than willing to hang out if I'm not outside of I'm not going to go this way or go that way, but it's like being at the shop. I tell my buddy Jim, I'm here all the time. So if you want to hang out, come here.
So you're the grumpy old bastard.
I'm the grumpy old man. So with that being said, I would challenge everyone here at the table, obviously especially you, Jason, because of how you feel about the situation, is if you want to come hang out, just come hang out. Yeah. Say, I'm coming up to hang out. You guys going to be at the shop tonight? I'm going to come up there. Let's tinker. Let's do this. Let's do that. Can I do another podcast? Whatever it is, just engage yourself more, even though it makes you feel uncomfortable. Because of the dynamics of life and the situations that we've been through together and with each other and stuff like that, it makes it uncomfortable at times, I think, for everybody. You know what I mean? I don't like being at mom's house.
Agreed.
And knowing some shit that's gone down and feeling like I can't say nothing to you, or vice versa, and that we don't even say 2 words to each other when we're there for like 2 hours. It's stupid. It's pointless. So I want to just like break down those walls and try to, I mean, fuck everything else, right? All I really care about, I mean, I care about everything, but personally, all I care about is just like there's 3 of us having 3 brothers and being close with each other, even if we don't do a lot of stuff together or whatever. Like, we need to be able to just break down those walls and stuff, you know what I mean? And just learn enough about each other to know when we can lean and know when we need to be leaned on, because it's stupid and it's a waste of time to put all this other bullshit, because I personally don't give a shit. All the shit that I could list out that Jason's wronged me by, I just don't give a shit. I don't care about it. Like, I don't think about it. I don't care about it. Whatever. I got too many other current things to deal with to give a shit. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And I care more about you than I do about the things that you've done or the things that I've done. So those are my final parting words. Eric, you got anything else?
No, I just kind of echo that. You know, call anytime, day or night.
Yeah,
you know,
thank you.
The support is there for sure.
All right.
Accept it, man. Fucking accept it.
Take it.
Yeah,
even if
I
it's
need
not
to work
Because
on
you'll
it.
need it.
Oh, yeah.
So take
Agreed.
it.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Thanks, Jay. I appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.